This is UZ Report World News with the latest headlines in Uzbekistan and around the world. The Board of Directors of the Islamic Development Bank approved the financing of two large-scale and economically significant projects in Uzbekistan for a total of $509.2 million. The first project, worth $200 million, provides for the modernization of a number of infrastructure and social facilities in the Republic of Kyrgyzstan, as well as Khorazm, Bukhara and Navoiy regions. The project includes the construction and reconstruction of 1,161 kilometers of water supply systems, 626 kilometers of access and intra-mass roads, 1,154 kilometers of low-voltage power lines, 693 kilometers of irrigation and drainage networks, 155 educational, medical and more than 100 other facilities. The implementation of the project is expected to improve the living conditions of more than 710,000 people. The second project, for which the bank allocates $80 million, provides for the implementation of the second phase of the program to comprehensively improve the system of providing medical services to patients with cancer by equipping domestic clinics with modern medical equipment. Uzbekistan's foreign trade turnover, excluding services in the first 9 months, reached $24.3 billion. The export and import volumes amounted to $10.8 billion and $13.6 billion respectively, with a trade deficit for goods at $2.8 billion. The volume of goods exports was almost flat year-on-year. The shares of gold and gas in exports were 54% and 3% respectively. The volume of goods imports dipped by 13% year-on-year in the 9 months period. 6 countries accounted for 77% of exports, with the shares of Russia and China making up 19% each. Turkey's share amounted to 13%, and the share of Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan comprised 11% each, and the share of Afghanistan amounted to 6%. In the first 3 quarters of 2020, enterprises engaged in the production and supply of natural gas paid 7,570 billion soums to the state budget, a decrease of 1,321 billion soums, which makes up approximately 15% compared to the same period last year, said the Minister of Finance Timur Ishmetov at the Senate plenary session. In particular, the minister highlighted the risks for achieving the projected targets of the 2021 state budget revenues in and expenditure. A 1% shrinking of GDP means a decrease in budget revenues by 433 billion soums, or approximately $42 million. If there is no gas exports due to higher domestic consumption at lower cost, the budget revenues will be short of 1 trillion soums, or approximately $100 million. Also, if the price of 1 ounce of gold drops by $100 without dividends, this will cut budget revenues by 1.8 trillion soums. The Ministry of Preschool Education of Uzbekistan will receive $100 million in accordance with the Cabinet of Ministers Ordinance on improving the development of children from an early age. The government expects to boost preschool education in 2020-2024 by providing quality teaching methods. Uzbekistan's preschool system comprises of public and private educational centers and offers general, multidisciplinary, specialized, inclusive and combined types of kindergartens. The infancy classes are attended by 1-year-old children. Early childhood groups are meant to 1 to 3 years, junior preschool to 3 to 4 years and to 4 or 5 years, and senior preschool groups consist of 6-7-year-old kids. Police of the Surkhandarya region says nearly 15.7 million Uzbek soums and total of 11,800 Russian rubles in counterfeit currency. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the operation resulted in the arrest of Mirzabad district resident. The individual was detained in the Istara rural food market, where he tried to sell some of the counterfeit bills. In addition, law enforcement seized absent color printer, LG video system, modem, Vasta TV and Defender keyboard. On 16 December, criminal proceedings were instituted against the detainee under Article 176 on manufacture, sale of counterfeit money, excise stamps or securities of the Criminal Code. The National Olympic Committee and the Ministry of Sports of Uzbekistan are planning to shoot a film about the Uzbek boxers' legendary victory at the Rio Olympics in 2016. Motivational sports drama, tentatively titled Invictus: Road to Rio, will be based on a true story. Rio 2016 Olympics hosted 250 men and 36 were women boxers who contested for 13 sets of awards. Only one athlete competed in each weight category from a country. These games have become the most successful in the history of Uzbekistan, bringing 4 gold medals at once. One of them was the flyweight boxer Kasanboy Dusmatov. The Andijan talent will become the main character of the upcoming film. The National Olympic Committee, the Ministry of Sports and the Boxing Federation have all pledged to fund the foreign actors' fees. In order to enrich the script and plot of the film, Jahangir Faiziev, who is currently working in Russia, will provide technical and advisory assistance. Uzbekistan Airways has posted on its website a reminder that says from January 1st, 2021, all Uzbek citizens can only travel abroad by using biometric passports. A new document is valid for 10 years, which is very convenient for frequent traveler. The new travel document, which meets all international requirements, has watermarks, color-changing paint, Moira effect, metallized security thread, laminated film and an electronic chip in a passport cover. The Ministry of Internal Affairs issues 3 types of red-color biometric passports. These are from birth to 1 year, 2-year valid passport, from 1 to 16 years, 5-year valid passport, persons over 16 years old, 10-year valid passport. The State Assets Management Agency of Uzbekistan intends to sell a 57% stake in of the Coca-Cola Bottlers Uzbekistan Ltd. In order to provide a transparent sale process, Uzbek side has invited Rothschild & Co. Financial Services Company as a consultant. CCBU is the largest producer of carbonated soft drinks in Uzbekistan with 47% of a market share, that is approximately 70% more than the nearest competitor. The company is authorized by its second largest member, the Coca-Cola Export Corporation, and the trademark owner, the Coca-Cola Company, for bottling, packaging, distribution and sale products under the Coca-Cola brands in Uzbekistan. The international beverage firm runs 3 production units in Tashkent, Namangan and Urgench regions with a network of modern warehouses. In addition, it is planned to build a new plant in Samarkand. The Coca-Cola Bottles Uzbekistan's revenue has topped $138 million in 2019, showing 46% growth compared to the same period in the previous year.
The motion to concur is agreed to.
After months of political wrangling, the U.S. Congress approved a nearly $900 billion coronavirus relief package on Monday. It's one of the largest bills of its kind to pass in American history and a potential lifeline for families and businesses battered by the pandemic. The coronavirus aid was part of a mammoth tax and spending package that will keep the government funded for another year. It passed both houses during a marathon session of Congress ahead of the holiday break. The virus relief bill includes a $600 payment for most Americans, along with a boost in unemployment benefits for millions thrown out of work. But 2 big sticking points were left out of the final version. One, pushed by Republicans, was protection for businesses from coronavirus-related lawsuits. The other, backed by Democrats, was direct aid for struggling state and local governments. Despite this, Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi urged her party to get on board.
It doesn't go all the way, but it takes us down the path, a first step.
Republican Representative Hal Rogers also supported the package.
It's not perfect, but it reflects a fair compromise that includes funding for many important priorities at home and abroad, and vital assistance for all those negatively impacted by the coronavirus pandemic.
That includes expanding a lending program for small businesses and extra funding for schools, airlines, transit systems, and vaccine distribution. For many Americans, help cannot come fast enough. The pandemic has continued its surge through the U.S., a health crisis that has taken more than 300,000 lives and decimated the economy. President-elect Joe Biden weighed in on the bill in a statement saying, quote, "To everyone out there struggling right now, help is on the way."
The British government is considering mass testing the thousands of truck drivers stranded on the side of the road, as the French and British tried on Tuesday to thrash out a deal to end the deadlock and lift a ban on freight from Britain. The United Kingdom is now cut off from much of the world due to a highly infectious new coronavirus strain, snarling one of Europe's most important trade routes, just days before the Brexit cliff edge. Britain's Interior Minister Priti Patel.
Testing of some sort is as part of the discussions that the Transport Secretary is having with his counterpart in France right now. Getting those tests up and running, can happen relatively quickly, but in terms of the details of that is something that both the Transport Secretary and his counterpart will be discussing right now. So I don't want to speculate in terms of, the nature of the testing and how soon that could be up and running.
Local media are reporting that Britain and France will announce a deal to restart freight by Wednesday. Supermarkets have warned if it's not lifted soon, there will be shortages of fresh food after Christmas. It's thought the mutated variant of the novel coronavirus could be up to 70% more transmissible, which has spooked much of the world that it's heading for them.
South Korea is battling a new outbreak of coronavirus infections, putting its no-lockdown strategy to the test. The surge has rattled the country that for much of 2020 was held up as a COVID-19 success story. On Tuesday, it moved to shut down all ski resorts and winter tourist spots from this Thursday until early January. There's also a ban on gatherings of more than 4 people in Seoul and its surrounding areas, though funerals and weddings are exempt. Disinfection officer Yoon Tae-ho said people should heed the rules across the whole country.
We also strongly recommend that people should refrain from having a social gathering of 5 or more people nationwide. Considering infection cases among family members and friends, restaurants need to ban a reservation and an entry for 5 or more people. If they breach these measures, they will be fined.
The national government has so far resisted calls to impose Phase 3 in the country's anti-COVID-19 plans. That would mean the toughest category of social distancing rules, essentially locking down Asia's 4th largest economy. South Korea announced its highest number of daily deaths on Monday with 24 fatalities, and there were a record number of new cases on Sunday. This third wave of the virus has been particularly hard for contact tracers to get on top of, as it emerged in the densely populated capital region.
Britain's economy recovered faster than expected in the third quarter. That's according to official data released Tuesday. It showed gross domestic product grew a record 16% from July to September. That was not enough, though, to make up for its near 19% slump in Q2, when much of the country was shut down. Household income grew as many workers went back to work after temporary layoffs. Consumer spending rose by almost a fifth, as households spent savings piled up during the previous quarter, when people were ordered to stay at home. But the Bank of England says the summer's positive GDP figures will not be repeated in Q4. It predicts GDP will shrink again as worries about the Brexit deadline on December 31st and new lockdown restrictions take hold. Tuesday's data showed the economy was 8.6% below where it was at the end of 2019, less than an initial estimate of 9.7%. The economic updates came as government borrowing also soared in the first 8 months of the year. New figures show the UK borrowed a record $323 billion, around $255 billion more than in the same period the previous year. The country's budget forecasters think the deficit will hit around $537 billion over the financial year, close to 20% of GDP. If so, it will be double the hit from the global financial crisis.
As the world embarks on an unprecedented campaign to bring vaccines to millions, often in remote locations, vital lessons can be learnt from the Democratic Republic of Congo. In 2018, during an outbreak of Ebola, health officials here needed to deploy an experimental vaccine that had to be kept at between -60 and -80 degrees Celsius. They did that with the Arctec device, effectively a giant thermos that can be filled with vaccines and special ice packs. Global Health Labs, which helped design Arctec, is currently retuning the device for use with dry ice so that each unit could keep up to 1,500 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech's vaccine frozen for several weeks. GHL's Daniel Lieberman.
If we're dealing with cryogenic vaccines like the Pfizer one currently requires -80, we can put dry ice in the Arctic and use it for that. If somebody would like to use the Moderna vaccine, you can get a phase change material at -20, and you can store the Moderna vaccine.
Africa has so far been spared the worst of the pandemic, but a second wave of infections is currently hitting West and Central Africa. Experts warn cooler weather could make it worse, focusing minds on vaccination. Between 2018 and 2020, health workers inoculated more than 400,000 people against Ebola, lugging vials colder than an Antarctic winter through equatorial forests. When cars could not pass the mud-clogged roads, they drove motorbikes. If water was the only option, canoes. But remote locations were not the only problem, as Toure Alassane, a vaccine expert at the World Health Organization, explains.
For example, in Africa, they used to tell that we just used to make the vaccine to exterminate the African people, or the vaccine will make the men weaken, or it will make the women infertile.
He says that a communication strategy needs to be in place before the vaccines are distributed. Without public trust, advances in cold chain technology may do little to save lives.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.